You have seen the videos, businesses that make you money while you sleep, passive income, set it up once, let it run itself. They show you the screenshot, the bank balance, the lifestyle. What they do not show you is the reason so many of these businesses never make it that far. Nearly 1 in 5 new businesses closes within the first year. And when you look at why, it is almost never a bad idea. It is a cost nobody warned them about, showing up after the money was already spent. Every business you can start has 2 prices. There's the price advertised online, a vending machine that costs $3,000, a print-on-demand store that needs no inventory, a cleaning business that needs only a mop and a car. And there is the real price, the location agreement, the restocking route, and the fuel the vending machine also needs. The customers the print-on-demand store has to find and pay for before there is any profit left. The workers who do not show up, and the clients who take 60 days to pay the cleaning business back. This is not about whether these businesses can work. They can. Every business on this list is genuinely worth getting into. It is about seeing the real price before it finds your bank account instead of after. In this video, we are going through 14 businesses you can genuinely start. For each one, you will see why it is worth getting into, how it works, exactly how to get in the door, how it makes money, and what growing it looks like. Then, once you know why it is a good business, we will show you the hidden cost that decides whether it stays a good business. Let's start with the businesses that need no storefront at all. This next section covers 3 of them. Part 1, the businesses with no storefront. These 3 barely touch the physical world, no fleet, no warehouse full of boxes. 1, print on demand. Business number 1 is print on demand, and it might be the fastest real product business you can start today before dinner with genuinely no inventory risk. Here's how it works. You design something, a shirt, a mug, a phone case, a separate company prints it, packages it, ships it the moment someone buys. You never touch the product. Getting in starts with choosing an audience, not a design. You want a group of people who share something specific and recognizable, a hobby, a profession, an identity, rather than a broad audience like just people who like graphic tees. From there, you either design yourself using something accessible like Canva or hire a freelance designer who understands print constraints, since prints behave differently than screen graphics. You choose a print-on-demand partner who handles production and shipping once you connect their catalog to your store. Before you list anything publicly, you order a physical sample. This is not optional. It is the only way to know the actual color, fabric weight, and print quality your customer will receive, and skipping it is how sellers end up with returns they never saw coming. Existing print-on-demand stores do occasionally sell on marketplaces, though platform account transfer rules complicate this more than most businesses on this list. So most people are genuinely better off building this one from scratch. The money is the gap between what you charge and what production, shipping, marketplace fees, payment processing, advertising, and refunds all take. Growth here means finding which designs actually sell, building a small family of products around them, and collecting an email list so you stop paying to reach the same customer twice. But here is what a video simply telling you to start a print-on-demand store will never walk you through. This is not really a design business. It is a customer acquisition business wearing a design business's clothes. The product is the easy part. Finding someone willing to pay for it is the actual job, and it is a skill most first-time sellers have never had to practice. Here's what happens when that skill is missing. Getting one customer to buy currently costs somewhere between $12 and $15 in advertising. A standard prints to shirt nets $4 or $5 in profit. You can lose money on every single sale and never understand why, because you were never taught to weigh acquisition costs against margin. The fix is treating marketing as the core skill to learn, not an afterthought. One narrow audience, organic testing before any ad spend, profit calculated after every fee. Kill a weak product fast. This fits someone willing to actually learn acquisition as a discipline, not just someone who wants to sell a cool design and assumes customers will follow. Two, Amazon FBA business number two might be the most powerful platform an independent seller has ever had access to. Amazon FBA. Amazon gives you instant trust, fast shipping, and a built-in customer base of hundreds of millions of people, none of which you could build yourself in years. Source a product, send it to one of Amazon's warehouses. From there, Amazon stores it, packs it, ships it, and answers most of the customer questions. Getting in starts with finding a product worth selling. You research real demand, check how crowded that category already is, and find a manufacturer who can actually produce it at a price that leaves you room to profit. You always order samples first so you know exactly what you're about to put your name on. From there, you handle the branding and packaging, ship your inventory into Amazon's warehouses, and build the actual listing itself. Photos, description, pricing. The first sales almost always need a push. So most sellers combine early advertising with reviews to get the listing moving in Amazon's own search results. And if you would rather skip that ramp up entirely, you can also just buy one. Marketplaces like Empire Flippers and Flip-A-List establish Amazon businesses for sale, already carrying their reviews and rankings, usually somewhere in the 6 to 7 figure range. The money is the selling price minus manufacturing, freight, Amazon's referral fee, its fulfillment fee, storage, advertising, and returns. Growth looks like improving the listing, adding related products, and eventually building a brand that survives independent of Amazon's algorithm. But here is what starting from a tutorial will never actually teach you. This is not really a product business. It is a cash flow and cost modeling business. Most first-time sellers have never had to calculate a landed cost before, and they trust Amazon's own calculator instead of building their own model. Here's what happens when that skill is missing. Total fees typically eat 30 to 45% of the selling price before advertising. A seller sees a projected profit of $8 to $10 a unit and feels confident. The real payout lands closer to $5 once returns and age inventory charges are factored in. This year, a new fuel surcharge sits on top of all of it. The fix is building your own cost model before you order inventory, not relying on the platforms. Order the smallest batch that tells you something real. This suits someone with real patience for numbers and capital they can afford to have sitting in a warehouse for months while that model gets tested. 3. Bookkeeping. Business number 3 is bookkeeping, and it is genuinely one of the more dependable businesses on this list to build. Small business owners need clean, accurate records every single month, and most of them do not want to do it themselves. That demand does not go away. Getting in means learning the fundamentals properly first, not just watching a few tutorials. You need to be genuinely fluent in whichever software most small businesses in your area actually use, to the point where you can troubleshoot a problem, not just enter data. From there, pick one industry to specialize in: restaurants, contractors, e-commerce sellers, so your systems repeat instead of being rebuilt for every new client. Your first clients almost always come through referrals. Accountants who do not want the monthly grind themselves, other small business owners, and local networking groups. Start with the simplest, cleanest accounts you can find, not the client with 3 years of unreconciled records, so you build a track record before taking on anything complicated. There's also a faster way in. Bookkeepers commonly buy another bookkeeper's client list outright when that person retires or exits, inheriting an established set of paying clients instead of building one from nothing. The money comes from monthly retainers, cleanup projects, payroll support, and reporting packages, and it grows as you specialize, standardize your onboarding, and eventually bring on junior bookkeepers once demand outpaces your hours. But here is what a video telling you to start a bookkeeping business will never mention. A client agrees to pay for basic monthly bookkeeping, and within a few months, they're also asking for payroll help, historical cleanup, and urgent tax questions, all inside the same flat fee. Monthly retainers this year typically run between $200 and $1,800 a month, and that number only holds if you can actually hold a boundary with a paying client in writing from day one. The fix is a written agreement stating exactly what is included, charging separately for cleanup, and raising your price the moment complexity increases instead of absorbing it quietly. And this is one of the steadiest businesses on the entire list. That is the first three: no physical assets, and the test is whether you can actually attract and keep a customer. The next four feel more solid. You can walk up and touch them: a machine, a property, a truck, a signed agreement. Here are the four. Part two: the businesses you can touch. 4. Vending machines. Business number 4 might be the most beginner-friendly way to own a real cash-flowing asset on this entire list. A vending machine. Place it somewhere with real foot traffic. Stock it. Collect the money while customers serve themselves. Getting in means treating the location, not the machine, as the actual project. You identify businesses with genuine, consistent foot traffic: an urgent care clinic with long wait times, a busy break room, a gym, and you approach the owner or manager directly, not just leave a flyer. You negotiate a commission rate, usually a percentage of sales, and you get that agreement in writing before you spend a cent on equipment, including how either side can end the arrangement. Only once the location is secured do you choose and buy a machine suited to that specific crowd, stocking it with products that match who actually walks past it every day, not what you personally like. For many people, the smarter entry point is actually skipping all of that and buying an existing route instead. A route comes with locations already secured and income already proven, typically priced at 1 to 2 times its annual net profit. Found on marketplaces like Biz Buy Sell, often with seller financing. The money is what customers pay for the products minus product costs, the location's commission, payment fees, fuel, spoilage, and repairs. Growth means starting with one machine, removing whatever sells slowly, and adding more once your route is proven. But here is what neither the buy a machine and get rich video nor the route listing itself spells out clearly. This is not really an equipment business, it is a location scouting business. Reading foot traffic accurately and negotiating commission terms in writing is the actual skill, and it is the one most buyers skip because the machine feels like the real purchase. Here's what happens when that skill is missing. A new machine runs $3,000 to $10,000, and a well-placed one brings in $150 to $1,000 a month, with margins of 25 to 35%. But a location can quietly take 5 to 25% of your sales as commission, and a flawless machine in a dead location still loses money. The fix is testing and securing the location before you buy, with a written agreement and clear terms, and tracking performance machine by machine. This suits someone genuinely comfortable negotiating with a business owner, more than someone who just likes the idea of owning a machine. 5. Laundromat. Business number 5 is one of the few businesses on this list that can run with almost no daily labor once it's set up, and demand for it never really disappears. A laundromat. Customers bring their own laundry. Your machines do the work. You maintain the space and collect the money. Getting in usually means choosing between buying an existing laundromat or building a new one, and building from scratch has become significantly more expensive, which is why most new owners actually buy. If you are buying, you review several years of real revenue and tax returns, not just what the seller tells you. You check the actual water, gas, and electricity bills, since utilities are one of the biggest ongoing costs in this business. You inspect every single machine yourself, or bring someone who can, checking age and service history rather than trusting how clean the machines look. And you read the lease terms closely, since a laundromat is only as good as the location it sits in for the next 10 years. The money comes from the washers and dryers, wash and fold, vending, and sometimes commercial contracts. Growth means improving the space, adding higher value services, and only acquiring a second location once the first is genuinely stable. But here's what actually determines whether that acquisition was a great deal or a slow motion mistake. This is not really a real estate business, it is a mechanical inspection business. Being able to independently judge how much life is left in a machine instead of trusting the seller's cash flow numbers is a skill that protects you here. Here's what happens when that skill is missing. Startup costs run from $50,000 for a small coin laundry with used machines to $500,000 or more for a new build. A laundromat can show healthy profit on paper, while several machines are quietly near the end of their life, and utilities alone can eat 20 to 30% of revenue. The fix is an independent equipment inspection before you buy, full service history, and 5 to 10% of revenue set aside every year specifically for replacement. This fits someone with real capital and the patience to manage a physical location for the long haul. 6. Short-term rental business number 6 is still one of the highest revenue per property models available to an individual owner when it is run in the right market. Short-term rentals furnish a property, list it, earn nightly income instead of a flat monthly rent. Getting in starts with confirming your local short-term rental rules before you do anything else, since this is the one business on this list where the rules can eliminate the entire model overnight. Once you know the property is viable, you furnish it properly, thinking about durability and how it will photograph rather than only what you personally like. And you photograph it the way a listing actually needs to look to compete for attention. You build the listing itself with a real description, not just a few phone photos, and you set up a system, either yourself or software, to manage guest messages and cleaning turnover between stays, since gaps here directly cost you bookings. Pricing has to move with demand, higher around events and weekends, lower in slow seasons, rather than sitting at one flat nightly rate all year. Some buyers look specifically for a property that already has an operating history and reviews attached, which can shortcut the trust building period, though that is closer to buying a property than buying a business. The money is nightly revenue minus the mortgage, cleaning, utilities, platform fees, and maintenance. Growth means improving occupancy and reviews, adding direct bookings, and expanding once you genuinely understand your market seasons. But here is what has shifted under this business in just the last 2 years, and a lot of videos praising it are still using old numbers. This is not really a hospitality business, at least not first. It is a regulatory tracking business. Knowing what your city allows right now is the actual skill, because the rules keep moving underneath the model. Here's what happens when that skill is missing. National occupancy remained close to 57% in 2025, but that national average hides major differences between markets, and growing supply has placed real pressure on individual cities and neighborhoods. California now lets cities pull host data from platforms. Houston has a new registration requirement. Austin now requires license numbers on every listing. Managing a short-term rental typically costs 20 to 40% of revenue, against 8 to 12% for a normal long-term rental. The fix is confirming legality before you sign a lease, modeling your numbers on this year's occupancy, and keeping a real vacancy reserve. This suits someone genuinely strong in hospitality and willing to keep tracking their city's rules like it is part of the job, because it is. 7. Franchise. Business number 7 removes almost all of the guesswork of building something from scratch. A franchise, you get a tested playbook, training, and often instant customer recognition the day you open. Getting in means reading the entire disclosure document before you get emotionally attached to a brand, not after. This includes the franchise fee, the build out and equipment costs specific to that brand, the working capital you need to survive a slow opening, the training program, the royalty structure, your territory rights, and the resale rules if you ever want to sell. You also want to talk to current and former franchisees directly, not just the ones the franchisor introduces you to, since the ones who left often tell you more than the success stories do. There's also a resale market. Buying an existing operating unit from a current owner is common and often preferable to opening new, since you inherit trained staff, existing customers, and proven local performance instead of building from zero. The money is your location's revenue minus operating expenses, royalties, marketing fees, and staffing. Growth means mastering one location before opening additional territories. But here is the reframe that changes how you should actually read every franchise disclosure document. This is not really a purchase. It is a long-term financial relationship, and reading the actual disclosure documents, not just trusting the brand name, is the real skill. Here's what happens when that skill is missing. The franchise fee is only the entry cost. Most franchisees then pay an ongoing royalty, averaging around 7% of gross sales. Add the marketing fund and technology fees, and the average total ongoing cost climbs to almost 9%, with some categories averaging close to 11.5%. On a location doing $1 million a year, that is nearly $100,000 leaving the business before rent, labor, or product costs. The fix is reading every fee in the disclosure documents and talking to current and former franchisees directly. This fits someone who prefers an established system and who is disciplined enough to read the fine print before signing. So far, we have looked at businesses built on attention and businesses built on assets. The last 7 are built on something else: local trust. A stranger lets you into their home, their yard, or their property. Here are the 7. Part 3, the businesses built on local trust. 8, commercial cleaning. Business number 8 offers steady, recurring revenue from clients who need this service regardless of the economy. Commercial cleaning, clean offices, clinics, or shops on a recurring schedule, usually outside business hours. Getting in means picking a niche: offices, medical clinics, retail, rather than trying to serve everyone, since each one has different expectations and different hours. You land your first contract by quoting it accurately, walking the actual space rather than guessing off square footage alone, and you schedule the work around the client's hours, not your own. As you take on more accounts than you can clean personally, you start hiring and supervising a crew, which changes the job from doing the work to managing the people doing it. The money is recurring contracts, deep cleaning, floor care, and supply services. Growth means building a roster of recurring accounts and putting quality control systems in place as you hire more people. But here is what actually breaks new operators in this business, and it is almost never the cleaning itself. This is not really a cleaning business. It is a cash flow business. Managing the gap between paying your crew and getting paid by the client, sometimes weeks apart, is the actual skill. Here's what happens when that skill is missing. Cleaners often need paying before the client's invoice is even settled. That gap is where the business quietly runs out of cash, especially if one client is a large share of your income. The fix is a payroll reserve, clear payment terms, and never letting one large client become the only thing keeping the business alive. This suits someone comfortable managing other people's work and other people's money. 9, junk removal. Business number 9 has a low barrier to entry, can start with the truck you already own, and demand for it never really stops. People are always moving, downsizing, or cleaning out. Junk removal. Show up, load unwanted items, haul them away, and sort what can be donated, resold, recycled, or dumped. Getting in can start with a truck you already own or a rented one, so this does not have to wait on a large vehicle purchase. You learn to quote jobs accurately by actually seeing the volume in person or through photos rather than guessing over the phone. And you build relationships with landlords, real estate agents, and property managers who regularly need cleanouts done fast and represent the most reliable source of repeat work in this business, far more than one-off residential calls. The money is pickup fees, labor, a markup on disposal, and reselling anything valuable you find. Growth means building relationships that bring repeat cleanout work. But here is what actually determines whether a quote turns into a profitable job. This is not really a hauling business. It is an estimating business. Judging weight, hazard, and disposal complexity before you commit to a price is the actual skill. Here's what happens when that skill is missing. A cleanout can hold more weight or more hazardous material than the customer ever mentioned. Dump fees run $20 to $55 a load, and a misjudged quote eats the entire job's profit. The fix is photos before quoting, stating clearly what you will not haul, and charging more when the actual load exceeds the estimate. This fits someone comfortable with physical labor and confident enough to charge more when a job turns out bigger than described. 10, moving. Business number 10 essentially never runs out of demand because people move constantly, and a good crew with a good reputation can build real, repeatable business through referrals alone. Moving. Move people's furniture and belongings from one place to another. Getting in usually means starting with labor only moves, where you supply the crew and the customer supplies the truck or a small vehicle of your own, rather than investing in a large truck before you have proven demand. You understand your local licensing and insurance requirements, since moving carries real liability the moment you touch someone's belongings. You price by crew size, time, distance, and complexity, learning to read a job before you quote it, and you build reviews and referral partnerships early, since this business runs almost entirely on trust and word of mouth. The money is hourly, moving, packing, furniture assembly, and long distance or commercial work. Growth means building a reputation solid enough to win the higher paying contracts. But here is what actually determines whether this business survives past its first year. This is not really a lifting business. It is a people management business. Hiring and training workers you can genuinely trust with someone else's belongings is the actual skill. Here's what happens when that skill is missing. One broken television, one injury, or one unreliable worker who does not show up can erase the profit from several completed jobs in an industry where margins already sit around 7 to 10%. The fix is real insurance, photographing valuable items before you touch them, written inventories, and backup labor for the day someone does not show. This suits someone who can manage a crew reliably, because one bad hire can undo an entire day's profit. 11. Lawn care and landscaping. Business number 11 has a low cost of entry and genuinely recurring revenue once you have a route for a service almost every homeowner needs on a schedule. Lawn care and landscaping, mow, trim, and clean up yards on a recurring schedule. Getting in means starting with basic mowing and maintenance using equipment you can genuinely afford outright rather than financing a large rig before you have your first client. You build a dense local route deliberately, taking clients close to each other rather than spread across town, since travel time between jobs is where a lot of the day's profit quietly disappears. And you sell recurring plans, weekly or bi-weekly service instead of one-time visits, since recurring revenue is what actually lets you plan and grow this business. Buying an existing route or client base from someone retiring is a real path here too. Similar to vending, usually arranged through word of mouth or a broker rather than an open marketplace. The money is mowing, trimming, cleanup, and seasonal or commercial contracts. Growth means moving from owner-operated work to crews and adding off-season services. But here is what most new operators never actually plan for financially. This is not really a mowing business. It is a liability and cash flow timing business. Understanding your actual insurance exposure and planning your income around seasons that do not arrive evenly is the actual skill. Here's what happens when that skill is missing. Starting equipment runs $500 to $2,500, which feels manageable. But a rock thrown by a trimmer cracking a windshield or window is one of the most common claims in the entire industry, and income does not arrive steadily across the year. The fix is a dense route, recurring agreements, an equipment replacement reserve, and planning the slow season into your budget instead of being surprised by it. This fits someone comfortable with outdoor physical work and disciplined enough to plan finances around a business that is not the same every month. 12. Pest control. Business number 12 is one of the most recession-resistant service businesses that exist. Pests do not care about the economy, and once a client signs a recurring plan, that revenue tends to be extremely sticky. Pest control. Treat homes and businesses for pests, usually one visit followed by a recurring plan. Getting in requires getting properly licensed and trained first, which is not optional here the way it might feel optional in lawn care. This usually means passing state exams and sometimes working under a licensed applicator for a period before you can operate independently. You choose a residential or commercial niche. Start within a compact service area so route density works in your favor, and offer recurring treatment plans from the beginning rather than only one-time visits, since recurring plans are what make this business genuinely stable. Entire client bases and even whole companies get bought and sold in this industry too, usually through a business broker, letting a buyer skip years of building trust and a route from scratch. The money is the initial treatment, monthly or quarterly plans, and commercial contracts. Growth means building route density and hiring technicians as it expands. But here is what separates this from every other service business on this list, and it is not optional. This is not really a service business. It is a regulated chemical handling business. Licensing and proper handling are the entire cost of entry, not an add-on. Here is what happens when that skill is missing. States typically require insurance minimums of $300,000 to $500,000 per occurrence, and a full insurance package for a pest control operator commonly runs somewhere between $4,000 and $10,000 a year, well above what a comparable lawn care business pays for coverage. Incorrect handling can create legal and health consequences a simple mowing business never faces. The fix is getting every required certification before your first paid job and following chemical handling standards precisely. This suits someone genuinely willing to go through proper licensing, not someone looking for the fastest possible entry point on this list. 13. Property management. Business number 13 is a strong, scalable, recurring revenue model. And once your systems are reliable, each additional property adds income without a proportional increase in your time. Property management. Manage rental properties for owners, handling tenants, rent, and maintenance. Getting in means understanding your local licensing requirements first, since many states require a real estate license or a specific property management license to operate legally. You start with a small number of properties rather than overcommitting early, screening tenants carefully, since a bad tenant costs you far more than the time it takes to screen properly, collecting rent, inspecting properties on a schedule, coordinating repairs through contractors you actually trust, and reporting back to owners regularly so they are never wondering what is happening with their investment. There's also a way to scale quickly by acquiring another company's book of managed properties outright, usually arranged company to company rather than through an open marketplace. The money is monthly management fees, leasing fees, and inspection fees. Growth means building a reliable contractor network and expanding once your systems can handle more. But here is what a video telling you to start a property management business will never walk you through. This is not really a management fee business. It is an emergency response and trust account business. You are the person tenants call at midnight, the person owners blame when a contractor does not show up, and the person legally responsible for handling other people's rent money correctly. Here's what happens when that skill is missing. Most states require you to hold tenant deposits and collected rent in a separate trust account with strict record keeping, and mishandling those funds, even by accident, can carry real legal and financial consequences, including the loss of your license. On top of that, a single unreliable contractor or one tenant dispute that escalates into a legal notice can consume weeks of your time and quietly erode the trust an owner placed in you for that property. The fix is defining your emergency response process before you take on your first property, keeping owner and tenant funds properly separated and documented from day one, and building a vetted contractor network you actually trust before you need one at 11 at night. This suits someone who can handle constant small emergencies calmly and stay meticulous about money that is not their own, more than someone who just wants predictable recurring fees. 14. Food truck. Business number 14, the last one, has a lower barrier to entry than a full restaurant, the freedom to go directly to your customers, and a format built for exactly this era of food discovery. A food truck, cook and sell food from a mobile vehicle instead of a fixed restaurant. Getting in starts with choosing a focused menu 8 to 12 items at most, and actually testing it through pop-ups or catering gigs before you ever buy a truck. So you know the food works and sells before your biggest expense is locked in. From there, you secure the required permits and health department approvals, which vary significantly by city. Arrange a commissary kitchen where health codes require you to prep and store food, and source your ingredients with suppliers who can keep up with a mobile schedule. Staffing and food prep both have to be redesigned for a much smaller physical space than a restaurant kitchen gives you. The money is street sales, events, catering, and delivery partnerships. Growth means improving speed and margins, building recurring locations, and adding a second truck once the first is stable. But here is what most people never plan for before they buy the truck. And it brings us back to something we said at the very start of this video. This is not really a cooking business. It is a contingency planning business. There is no backup kitchen. When one piece of equipment fails, the entire operation stops. Here's what happens when that skill is missing. Startup costs typically run $40,000 to $250,000. Permit costs get rumored into the tens of thousands in stricter cities, but even in Boston, one of the cities most often cited as expensive, the core food truck permit itself runs about $750 a year in application, health, and fire fees combined. The real cost hides somewhere else entirely. A commissary kitchen, which health codes require you to use, can run $700 to $1,800 a month in a market like that. Roughly 60% of food trucks survive their first 3 years, which means close to 40% do not, and it is rarely the food. The fix is testing the menu before you buy the truck, keeping the menu small enough to execute fast, and building a real repair reserve before the generator ever fails. This fits someone who thrives under pressure in a small space and who treats the truck as one piece of a larger system, not the whole business. Final section, the hidden cost checklist. We have gone through all 14 now. Before you close this video, here's something more useful than any single business on this list. 7 questions. Run them against any business idea and you stop reacting to the advertised price. You start calculating the real one. Question 1. What has to be paid before your first customer arrives? Equipment, training, permits, insurance, working capital, and reserve. Question 2. What cost grows every time you make a sale? Advertising, payment fees, fuel, labor, refunds, all of it rises with volume. Question 3. What breaks, expires, or becomes obsolete? Machines wear out, vehicles age, inventory spoils. Even demand can quietly move on without you. Question 4. How will customers actually find you? Advertising, foot traffic, referrals, a location you do not fully control. Question 5. What regulation could shut this down? Licensing, zoning, health rules, insurance requirements. All of it can change overnight, the way short-term rental rules already have this year. Question 6. How much cash do you need sitting untouched for slow months, for repairs, for refunds, for the emergency nobody plans for? And question 7. What part of this business is being sold to you as passive? Somebody still answers the phone, restocks the shelf, cleans the machine, shows up when something breaks. Find out who that person actually is before you assume it will not be you. So do not pick a business from this list tonight. Choose 3 that actually fit your capital and your skill. Talk to real people already running each one, at least 3. Calculate the pessimistic version of the numbers, not the best one. Find the single largest hidden cost in each option. Test real demand before you buy the truck, the machine, or the franchise. At the beginning of this video, we said every business has 2 prices, the one advertised online and the one you only discover after you have already started. That second price is not a flaw in these businesses. It exists in all 14 of them. It exists in every business you will ever consider starting after this one. The goal was never to find a business with no hidden costs. That business does not exist. The goal is to see the real price before it finds your bank account, instead of after. If you made it this far, you already know more about these 14 businesses than most of the videos promising you money while you sleep. Now go find the real price before it finds you.